Explore 3 calming techniques for the Antsy. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit, which begins concisely, "I can't meditate," and then continues, "Whenever I sit down for meditation, I can't stay still. Something or the other bothers me, and I can't concentrate. Somewhere it aches, all kinds of negative thoughts, urge to fiddle with something. I am a Hindu, and I even chant mantras, but nothing helps. I really want to sit down and meditate. Please give me tips." So I will do my best to answer this in a manner respectful to the Hindu culture and tradition. It's been said by many, not all, but by many Hindu teachers, that the Buddha, known by some as Gautama and by others as Shakyamuni, that the Buddha was an avatar of Vishnu. I do not know that to be fact. I do not know that to be falsehood. That is simply something that I have heard from many Hindu teachers. Regardless of one's cultural background, one can admit that the Buddha was a prolific teacher, and at least a very famous one. Let's take a deeper look at that. Well, I guess I pushed the wrong button, didn't I? Go back to pushing button number 5. And let's jump forward in the text. Sadly, despite the Buddha spending the majority of his life teaching, there is great confusion, even during his life. Why is that? Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. Before the Buddha received the nickname the Buddha, many referred to him as the monk Gautama. It is said in lore that Gautama had a wicked cousin named Devadatta, who thought it would be a splendid idea to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Let's emphasize the attributes of being rigid. Oopsie, that's very colorful. Rigid and controlling. In contrast, the Buddha felt it was important to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And in this case, let's emphasize the attributes of being flexible and being laid back, for they are counterpoints of being rigid and controlling. Those who tend to follow the path of Yang or patriarchy or Devadatta are drawn to positions of power and prestige the way that moths are drawn to a porch light on a summer's eve. And so we have a situation where the foxes are guarding the henhouse and the patients have taken over the asylum. But what does that mean to me and you? What it means is that the majority of teachers, often innocently, teach their students that mindfulness is concentration and that meditation is analysis. And then their students, with the best of intention, rely upon such neurological structures as our medial prefrontal cortex or dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And these areas are great if you want to do math, or you want to do some engineering, or you want to, compare and contrast and analyze or measure. Awesome. Fabulous. But the prefrontal cortex did not evolve to mitigate our limbic system. In fact, they have an antagonistic relationship. The more we abuse our prefrontal cortex, using it for purposes for which it did not evolve, the more, according to functional and magnetic resonance imaging tests, the more our amygdala lights up. Our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, which dwells in the metaphoric dungeon of our limbic system. But there's some good news. When we rely upon our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system for mindfulness and meditation, not only does our amygdala calm down, but this thing lights up. This thing that kind of looks like a catcher's mitt or like a bowl turned on its side. This thing that the big kids call the anterior cingulate gyrus. This thing that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. So what? Well, so this shows us that relying on active concentration and active analysis is not sustainable. It does not lead in the direction that the Buddha taught. Remember, 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. The Buddhas taught that the fourth enlightenment factor and the fifth enlightenment factor are joy and peace. So if the techniques we are using are producing neither loving kindness, nor joy, nor peace, then those techniques are not serving us well. It doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. It doesn't mean people are out to get you. It just means that some people are deceitful businessmen masquerading as holy men, but the majority are just lazy-minded and untrustworthy narrators. That's humanity. Humanity is a lot like that. Please don't take it personal. But let's take a deeper dive, especially for those of us who are naturally physically antsy and mentally antsy. That is not a character flaw. It's an attribute of a neurotype. There are different neurotypes. Just like there are different types of hair. Some are straight, some are curly, some are thinning, some are full. Some are brown, some are black, some are yellow, some are orange. Just like there are different hair types and just like there are different colors of eyes or different shades of skin, there's different neurotypes. And if you sit down and have a conversation with an anthropologist, they'll tell you that one of the reasons we are a successful species is because we have so many different neurotypes that are better at different things. That means more needs are met. It does take a village to raise a child. It does take... Variety really is the spice of life. Now, in the last few thousand years, society has become more supportive for neurotypicals and less supportive for neurodivergence. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a conspiracy, just a lot of lazy-mindedness. So, personally, I'm super neurodivergent. I mean, just, I have both ADHD and autism, exacerbated by many things, such as fetal alcohol exposure, birth trauma, brain damage, CPTSD, I have trouble pronouncing this one. Ehlers-Danlos spectrum or syndrome. Myalgic encephalomyelitis. So, a lot of things going on. I spent my entire life trying to find neuroscientific hacks, ways of coping with both my strengths and limitations that are unique to people in my circumstance. So what I'm about to tell you is stuff that has worked for people who were born to be restless and antsy, both physically and mentally. And if it's worked for them, it might work for you as well. The seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is mindfulness. How does that work? Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically and effortlessly access our sympathetic nervous system, whether we perceive it or not. Our sympathetic nervous system, which is located in the center third of our spinal cord. Our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to perceive and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Now, our brains can be clever and benevolent, but really, really clumsy. When we ask our brain to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, in harmony with our inhalation, it begins automatically cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system, thus making vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random perception easier. That doesn't mean our brain's going to settle down. It just makes it perceptive. Perceptive of what? Perceptive of sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. Perceptive of emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. That's a lot of things, and that can feel overwhelming. What can we do about that? Well, that brings us to meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Excuse me. I've got a sneeze creeping up, and it's taking its time. So how does this work? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, located in both the bottom third of our spinal cord, as well as the top third of that same spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Does that mean our brain is going to stop on a dime? No. Here's what it means. During our in-breath, we feel that our right tush cheek is itchy. During our next exhalation, that itchiness might seem a little less sharp, a little less urgent, a little less defining. The very next inhalation, it'll come back in living color. The very next exhalation, it'll take the edge off. And that pertains to everything, whether it's external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. Well, if that's the case, why do we need to sit and meditate at all? Because due to a complication in evolution, this collection of organelles we call the central nervous system is remarkably complex. But here are 3 tools to help. Number 1, during your inhalation, silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. to help the brain to cooperate with the sympathetic nervous system to aid in our perception. With every exhalation, silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease to help the brain cooperate with the parasympathetic nervous system that we might physically relax and mentally release. Now, listen to your body. It has a lot of wisdom. If your body is antsy and it wants to move, then let it move. Might I recommend brisk walking meditation? For the last, 8 years? I think it's 8 years. I've been walking up and down one street. And it's great because I love dogs and I get to meet all my neighbor dogs and their pet humans. It's delightful. But I also get to meditate. And the meditation isn't concentration. It isn't analysis. It's just perceiving and releasing in harmony with my inhalation and exhalation. As silently and mentally I recite this and ease while briskly walking to North Hollywood Way and then back to Frederick Avenue. Just back and forth on one street. And the cool thing is there are no stoplights. It's pedestrian friendly. I can just walk briskly. If where you live is not pedestrian friendly, then just walk around the block. It's very difficult to get hit by a car on your own block. So let's talk about timetables, shall we? You can start off simply at 5 minutes every 12 hours or so. After a week or so, you can graduate up to 10 minutes every 12 hours. Perhaps in the third week, you can bump that up to 15 minutes every 12 hours. And I'm sure you're noticing a pattern of adding 5 minutes every week or so. If you persist with that, then by the conclusion of the 12th week, and you'll be walking for 60 minutes, or you'll be performing 60-minute walking meditation every 12 hours. That's fabulous. And if at a certain point you want to graduate to perhaps one walking meditation a day and one sitting meditation a day, you can do the same thing. Begin again with a sitting meditation, starting with 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, gently and gradually. The goal is not to change the way your brain works. The goal is not to stop perceiving. The goal is not to stop noticing things. It's to cooperate with what you notice, whether what you notice is pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. We cooperate with what we notice during our inhalation by labeling it with this, and during our exhalation by relaxing as best we can. And that's okay, but we have to remember that meditation and mindfulness are not our only tools. We must make the most of lifestyle medicine. We must do what we can to get enough sleep, to get enough fresh air, to get enough sunshine, to get enough exercise. We don't need a gym membership to get exercise. We don't need to be rich to eat healthy. It's been found, peer-reviewed studies have shown that the healthiest diet for a human is to subsist on whole plant foods. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, herbs, spices, fungi, and the like. You can thrive on this diet as an athlete, as an academic, as an artist, as a laborer. You can thrive on this diet. And it's affordable. You can buy all the foodstuffs you need to thrive at a dollar store, at a 99-cent store. These things will help greatly. And here's something that can also help. If a fish judges itself by its ability to climb a tree, it will always think itself a failure. Squirrels are best contrasted with squirrels. Fish are best compared with fish. Learn what neurotype you are in. I recommend finding a psychologist or a psychiatrist who specializes in neurodivergence to test you and to evaluate you and to figure out what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and what your neurotype is. Knowing what you are can make it easier to strategize your way through life. If you are a squirrel and you're trying to live as a fish, you're going to be miserable. If you are a fish and you're trying to live as a squirrel, you're going to be miserable. One is not better than the other. They're just different. So do what you can to find a specialist, someone who specializes in neurodivergence, an MD or a PhD who can help you. Not someone who's read an article on it one time 10 years ago, but someone who lives this 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. That might seem insurmountable, but if you look hard enough, you will find something like that. And if you need resources like that, reach out to me and I will share you some attachments. Now, I can't share these attachments on YouTube, but I think I can share them on the Facebook group. And I think there's a link in the description area below the video. So if you reach out to me using that link to the Facebook group, I can give you the attachments you need to find psychiatrists and psychologists who not only specialize in neurodivergence, but who have neurodivergence, and they can really help you figure out whether you have it or not. And if so, what you can do to best cope with both your strengths and your weaknesses. I do look forward to practicing with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of Hinduism, Taoism, and Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This morning, let's play with the latest iteration of love and 3 marks of reality. Now, it looks like the word reality is obscured on the screen, so let's hit this button, see if it doesn't work out better. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hit 40, and I'm going to see if that works any better. That's close enough for government work. Excellent. So, since I'm neurodivergent, if I just practice mindfulness meditation, my dopamine plummets and I get drowsy. So I alternate between gentle passive contemplations and then I return to mindfulness and meditation. I found this really helps me as a neurodivergent, and perhaps it will help you as well. Let us bring the mental into the path of love, as well as the Tilakkhana 3 marks of existence. Please chant with me. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting our mental needs met. When we want what for as long as we want, if at all. So now we're going to silently and mentally recite a rhetorical question. We're going to divide it in half between our in-breath and our out-breath. Not only are we reciting this silently and mentally, we're also reciting it passively. We are not actively striving to answer the question. We're treating it like a rhetorical question. Let's play with this for the next 4 rounds. Now, I like to count a round. Now, I just like to assume that a round is 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. And so I like to use what I like to call Bengali crease counting. During each inhalation, I advance the tip of my left finger, and I'm going to start by counting, touching it to the 3 sets of creases and then the tip of my left little finger, all the while silently and mentally reciting the rhetorical question. Please practice with me. And rechant. Since we are not... I guess we have an editing opportunity. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. Great wisdom for all minds. We're not praying, we're not believing, we're not visualizing. We're simply reciting words silently, mentally, and passively in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation. And yet doing so helps to stimulate the neural pathways responsible for empathy. And of course, together let's count now upon our left ring finger. Please chant with me. Whoops, let's make sure this fits on the screen. Observing the coming and going of mental phenomena, help us to see that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. As we play with the rhetorical question, how could mind always change? Let us count upon our left middle finger. Please chant. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mental phenomena we notice during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, or as if it simply was not us. Once again, remember, this question is rhetorical. We're not trying to actively answer it. Let us count our 4 repetitions upon our left index finger. And now we can simply bring our spontaneous awareness into the path of release. And we'll do that using the exact method we mentioned during class. During the inhalation, we'll silently and mentally recite this. During our exhalation, we'll silently and mentally recite ease, allowing our mind and body to perceive and relax and release gently and effortlessly. Remember, it is as if we were at a theater, and you and I, and neither you nor I or the producer, nor the director, nor the playwright, nor the actor upon the stage. We're just in the audience enjoying the show. So think of it this way. Think of it this way. During our inhalations, silent mental and passive recitation of the demonstrative pronoun this, we get to kick back and watch the antics of our mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we exhale, while silently, mentally, and passively reciting the verb ease, we can relax into the same mind's non-graspable nature. This method is known by many names, such as Sati Pasadi, Dhyana, Sutra Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, or Trek Cho. A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply it, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. But do bear in mind, there is a lag time here on YouTube between when you click send and when it appears on my screen. Together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as now let us bring the interpersonal into the path of love and the 3 marks of existence. Please chant with me. Each of us has Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting our interpersonal needs met. When we want wherever, as long as we want, if at all. So let us take all these words and condense them down to just 6 syllables, which we're going to recite silently, mentally, and passively, dividing it in half between our inhalation and our exhalation. Let us do this for 4 rounds. We're using the word feels to describe our experience of the interpersonal. Please chant with me. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long. Try this again. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. Please chant with me. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Observing the coming and going of interpersonal phenomena, help us to see that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. And of course, we're using feels as a monosyllabic synonym for interpersonal phenomena. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever interpersonal phenomena we notice during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, as if it simply was not us. Having exercised our mind with these gentle, passive contemplations, we now rest our mind in spontaneous awareness and release. As we inhale while silently, mentally, and passively reciting the demonstrative pronoun this, we can kick back and watch the antics of our mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we exhale, again, we can silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease as we relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Let us bring the physical into the path of love and the three marks of existence. Please chant with me. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting our physical needs met. When we want for as long as we want, if at all. So we're going to take all these words and squish them down into 6 syllables. Which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. Feeling the coming and going of physical phenomena. Help us to feel that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever physical phenomena we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity and as if it was simply not us. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. let us bring the circumstantial into the path of love and the three marks of existence. Please chant with me. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting all circumstantial needs met. When we want for as long as we want, if at all. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. Observing the coming and going of circumstantial phenomena, help us to see that ever-changing one and all there is nothing permanent to grasp. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstantial phenomena we notice during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity and as if it simply was not us. Please chant with me. In our compassion may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of ever. Hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. I wonder what would happen if I adjusted that and then lifted this a little bit. How would that work? Pretty good. In all pragmatism, may all liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. Having sat together for the better part of 75 minutes, you might find it refreshing to join me in 7 or so repetitions of Tibetan-style Buddha bowing. This is, of course, completely optional. May we free all through the three jewels. 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 Oops. Okay, here we go. And let's rest the mind. Let us seal our practice by percussively chanting loving wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds clear yet impermanent be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships resounding yet impermanent be as loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies sensual yet impermanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined Deva's form. May all circumstances appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Devi's land. And now let us conclude with wishes for the preservation of the Buddha's teachings. May every meditation teacher truly understand the Buddha's teachings and practice master as well as teach them generously, lovingly, and wisely in the manner of centered spontaneity. May all meditation teachers spontaneously receive generous patrons, enthusiastic students, as well as devoted apprentices. And may all Dharma centers likewise be successfully planted, nurtured, and supported. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.